Howdy, y'all. My name's Jace, and I'm a sex addict. Each week I come on and answer questions about my life as an addict or a person in recovery, or just, somebody out here attempting to be healthy for the first time in my life. The question I got in this week was with regard to sex and shame. It really, it really took me back. That one was a tough one for me because as long as I can remember, I have had shame and sex tied together in a way that I thought could never be broken. My sexuality started very young. I have memories of being a very young child with a very active fantasy life. Uh, Compulsive masturbation started for me very young. I'm sure it started as just masturbation and then quickly became compulsive masturbation as a self-soothing technique, as a self-medicating thing, and then that led into a lot of other things as my life continued. And of course, from the very beginning, I knew it was wrong. I thought it was wrong. So I had shame around it. And then my life and involvement in the church certainly added to that. Sex is for marriage between a man and a woman, preferably for reproductive purposes, and that's it. I was not married. I wasn't always with men. I certainly wasn't trying to reproduce, that's for sure. So there was shame around sex in that way, and that I thought I was going to go to hell for eternity and burn forever because I was having these thoughts or I was acting out in different ways. That brought on a lot of shame. And then even, gosh, I want to say almost deeper than that, or at least on par with the religious component, was the shame around sexuality as a woman. I don't know who, there wasn't a specific person that told me I'm not supposed to have a sexuality as a woman. I'm not supposed to have a sexual appetite as a woman. But it's a story that's been told for so long that it's just ingrained so deep in me. It's something that I started telling myself as well, that my sexual appetite, any kind of cravings, any thoughts, any desires, any people I wanted to be with, whatever it was, that was shameful. I was bad for wanting those things. And that's a really clear distinction. Guilt is I've done something bad. Shame is I'm bad, which is what I've felt my entire life. I also was told at some point that my worth came from what I could offer sexually. So that's all I thought I had to give. That was all I was worth being around for. And therefore, I had to do whatever they wanted to do, whether I wanted to or not. And it's not like they were, there have been situations, but for the most part, they weren't like forcing me. I just felt I needed to do that in order to be worth anything to them. That was my position. That's my role, which made me feel a lot of shame around that, especially coming from the family I come from. My immediate family is full of very strong, amazing women. My extended family also has some of the coolest women I've ever known in it. And I don't know them all that well, just with space and time and everything, but all my interactions with them, they're so impressive. They're really strong, cool ladies. So it was really hard for me. I felt like I was terrible because of all of the things I was engaging in sexually and my take on that as being my worth. I've also had partners that, for whatever reason and their own issues, not maliciously, I don't think, but just out of ignorance and their own stuff, made it, really felt inclined to make sure I felt shame for my sexuality, for my past, things I'd done, people I'd been with, my attitude around it. I was bad for that reason. And that was really hard because I loved some of these people. I'm not sitting here, oh, I was the perfect girlfriend and they were me. Nah, I was a jerk. I was not a good significant other. Never have been. Working on it, but never have been. So I'm not trying to play the victim, but that was part of it too. I did have people throughout my life add to that shame as well, which is really hard when it's coming from someone that you love, that you trust. Then you believe them more. It's very easy to believe someone you love when they put that shame on you. So yes, goodness, yes, that shame and sex have been woven together since the very beginning for me. In fact, I spent most of my life thinking that shameful feeling that came around sex or after sex was part of what happens when you have sex. I thought that that was just part of it. I did not know that that was an external thing, a separate thing. Um, I don't know the right word. I don't like to say good or bad. Those are judgmental labels I don't like to use. But I didn't realize that that wasn't tied in to sex until recently. Do I still feel shame around things? Kind of, yeah, sometimes. I mean, I see other women out there they are sexy, right? They're not in the short, skirts and all hanging out. They just have this essence of strength and, courage, confidence, and a very strong sexual identity. They sometimes make me nervous and also jealous because I want to be one of them. Because I understand mentally that there oughtn't to be shame around my sexual being as a person and especially not as a woman. But I'm battling years of that other message. So it'll take some time. But even just the other day, for the first time since like April, I think, I masturbated, and the first thing that like jumped into my head was just this rush of that shame. And I had to like put a timeout on it and go through like, I wouldn't call that compulsive, once in like 6 months. I'm probably okay. It wasn't an addictive behavior. I wasn't using degrading fantasy or anything like that. Nothing inappropriate. It was just a normal human act. I'm an adult. I had to talk myself out of it. And then I felt sad that those were the first feelings to come from what I believe to be a very natural, normal, shame-free human behavior. So yeah, it does still come up. I have a long way to go. I also, I think that's going to take practice of being in those situations, recognizing them as appropriate, and being comfortable in them. I don't have much opportunity for practice, but I'm confident that I'll get there. And the follow-up question was, what have I done to break down that feeling of shame? A lot of it has come from working my program, which really leads to healthy sexuality, not a denial of sexuality. That's been very helpful. But the biggest thing has been the film. Suddenly Celibate, the documentary that I've been working on, is about learning what it means to be sexually healthy and what healthy relationships look like, how addiction plays into these things. So I've gotten to talk to experts in these fields. I've done a lot of research and reading. I really have kind of a front row seat into the world of healthy sexuality. We're still going. I'm still talking to people. We have actually some really cool interviews lined up this month and next month. So that's really exciting. But I've been really studying what it means to be sexually healthy, and it can be confusing. There's a lot out there. So I'm really fortunate that I've gotten to do that. And and the rest is just talking to people about not their like detailed lives or anything, but just I think that sex is something we should be able to talk about comfortably, respectfully, but comfortably, so that we know. And it's not, as soon as something's not talked about, there's shame around it in a way. For me, it's like, oh, we're not allowed to talk about it. We're not supposed to talk about it. Therefore, there's something wrong with it, right? So I've been just talking to people more about it that are comfortable, and I'm always respectful, and we just have conversations about it, or people in program will talk about their partners, their spouses, and that relationship and the health there. So talking to people has been really helpful as well. But anything that has existed within me for that long is just going to take time. So I'm trying to be patient, trying to recognize when that shame does come back up and have a plan in place to get rid of it immediately, because there is no room for shame in healthy living. There just isn't. It cannot be there for me. To each their own, but shame cannot exist in my healthy life. So it's something I'm continually working on, and I hope I'll have some opportunities for practice as time goes on to work on being a sexual being without that shame being there. In the meantime, I will be around. I'll still be answering your questions. You can send them through the website. And if you want to learn anything about the film or what we're doing, suddenlycelibate.com, or under YouTube with the same name, Suddenly Celibate, and on Facebook as well. So feel free to check us out and send your questions in there. I will be back next week. And in the meantime, just stay curious.